When I was a young boy in the newspaper business, I was told on one occasion when I had to write a story that it was a brass check. A brass check means a check you can't, that really you can't bounce because you got to give a plug to somebody. Well, I'm only too pleased to give a plug this morning. We had a program on BCTV, syndicated across the country for a number of years, which was instantly identifiable by a set of magnificent teeth. And the man who has replaced Mr. Alan Hamill Teeth is a handsome young josher called Alan Thicke.
And I had none at all, so, you know.
And you have no teeth at all.
Pleasure to meet you,
Nice
Jack.
to meet you, Alan. You are a famous Canadian who's been living in Los Angeles in the flesh pots and the degeneracy of that country now for, what, 10 years?
Isn't it glorious? Yes, 10 years I've been in Los Angeles, but commuting to Canada all the while, continuing my associations professionally and personally up here. I still have family in Toronto. My parents live there. I came back and produced 4 Anne Murray specials and produced the Bobby Vinton series in Toronto.
And you also produced
René Simard.
René
I did here in
Simard
Vancouver.
out of
yes.
Vancouver.
Yes. So I've always tried to
And
maintain...
you write songs.
Write music, yes I do.
Did any of them bomb or did any of them go?
20 theme songs I've had on American television shows so far, several of which are still running.
Such as?
Different Strokes, Facts of Life. Game show themes are a very big business. You know, I wrote, for instance, there's a show on called Wheel of Fortune, which Merv Griffin owns, an NBC show. And that was 6 or 7 years ago. That music runs 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. And royalties are paid per minute of music used. So I have a thriving publishing and writing company with no hit songs.
Terrific.
It's a very commercial approach to songwriting.
But didn't you write hit songs? Aren't you married to Gloria Loring?
Yes, I am.
Didn't you write a couple of songs for her?
I have. I help her with her act, her stage work, and her album recordings. I've also written songs for most of the artists for whom I've written or produced television shows, including Barry Manilow and Olivia Newton-John and Anne Murray, not all of which have been recorded commercially on albums, but all of which have been used on their television programs. So I have a varied musical and comedic background, and I love the work.
Well, comedic. Is that a new one?
Well,
What is a comedic background?
Well, if you've ever met my grandmother, Jack, you would understand. No,
Is she Mrs. Comedic?
I have the last of the Red Hot grandmas as part of my lineage, and wonderful Northern Ontario, very Canadian, dry sense of humor.
Oh,
and,
you mean comedy?
Yes, yes.
Oh, comedic. That's what fooled me.
You thought it was.
I thought she was
ethnic.
Polish, and that was her name.
No, she. At least half of my work has been in comedy. I produced and wrote America Tonight and Fernwood Tonight.
Oh, Fernwood Tonight.
Yes,
you
yes,
did that.
I did those.
You're a wit.
Well, thank you, Jack. I often get asked.
That was a repulsive show.
Thank you. Well, that's what made it so successful.
I know. It was really repulsive.
It was satirical comedy at its most obtrusive.
It was so close to the truth, though, wasn't it?
Well, I often get asked why or how a fellow from Northern Ontario could work with and for Norman Lear in a production of that magnitude, and the truth is that Northern Ontario is Fernwood, and for all of us who have ever lived in small towns anywhere in Canada, we know that mentality and the activity in those towns and those people. We are those people.
What was the name of that guy in Fernwood Tonight?
Martin Mull played Barth Gimble, and Fred Willard played Jerry Hubbard.
I hated them.
Yeah, but they were fun to hate, weren't they?
No, they were. Yeah, they were. Repulsive was the word.
Yeah, seedy. It was low rent. It was
yeah.
a low rent show.
And the fat guy was Barth.
Well, the bigger of the two was Jerry Hubbard. That was Fred Willard. But now I go back to Kirkland Lake, where I was born, a gold mining community in Northern Ontario.
Dare you go back?
A couple of times a year. And I cannot write anything as funny as the local talk show, the morning show that they have at 9 o'clock in Kirkland Lake. The mayor, in his office, has a black and white videotape camera, and the first thing you see in the morning, if you're watching at 2 minutes to 9, is some static on your screen, and then a figure will walk around in front of the camera. It's the mayor who has just turned on his camera. He sits at his desk like you do, makes his calls, only it's about his laundry and his dog and where was his son last night, and his girl brings him coffee. It seems he's having something with his secretary, more than coffee and dictation. And there is a situation comedy happening every morning in Kirkland Lake for an hour where you find out of everything more than you'd ever want to know about the community.
You just
We can't write anything.
You've just given me my retirement plan.
And this guy's the mayor.
I'll put a live camera in over at Salt Spring.
Right,
Get up
yes.
in the morning.
Yes.
Look for my glasses.
That's his act
Stand
entirely.
in the shower.
I'll get you some tapes of that show, if they're sophisticated enough to tape it. But the point is, that is Fernwood. That is America Tonight.
You
and
think
that was
this
my
is
background.
much different?
Well, no, here you get
No,
you get
we're
on in the
not
morning.
that
and you
much different.
No, you get on in the
We're
morning.
not
and you get
that much different.
You get
We
miserable
have as
right
low-
from word one.
We have as low a level of humour and importance as anything out of Fenwood Tonight. And there are occasions when we have as many phonies as Fenwood Tonight.
Sure. Well, we ought to get along great.
Rock singers on your show.
Yes, we have the singers, and we have the we have them on my show
And
too.
no, your show, not my show.
Yes,
Comedics. You have comedics
yes,
too.
people with comedic backgrounds, if that is their ethnic persuasion. People of the comedic persuasion.
They're not Muslims.
No.
After the break. So he makes lots of money. He's got music publishing companies. He writes themes for the Joker's
You
Wild.
said this was a big budget show, though, and it wasn't Fernwood. And I've got the Webster coming right off my cup. I mean, this is a self-adhesive thing. They changed this to Heart right after this program's over. They put a new thing on there. Jack.
That was in the instructions of the instructions of the vice president in charge of productions, Bill Elliott. He said, "Save money on the labels."
It's working.
It's working. Doesn't matter about you. If you're not careful, I'll take it off and slap it on your forehead.
I think Bill grows his own coffee beans too, judging me.
I hate to ask you this. Are you on the air yet?
Yes, we started a week ago, and thank you for being a regular viewer.
Was it good?
I haven't seen it yet myself. We've been so busy taping.
You know if it's good. You know when you've done
It
a show
feels
if it's a clunker.
It feels good. Most of the time the show feels good. We won't have any real results for 6 or 8 weeks yet.
Who was on your first show?
Judy Collins,
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Franco Columbu, who was a Mr. Muscles kind of fella, and I don't remember who else. And that is not to be disrespectful to the guests, but we taped so quickly, we taped 3 or 4 programs per day, that by the third show I don't remember where I've been or who I've spoken to. I know at the end of the day if I've had fun, but I really don't know the sequence. And
Well, you're, of course, one of the Canadians ex-CBC. You managed to survive CBC. This is your life, Alan Thicke.
Just barely.
How did you escape?
I escaped because at the time Len Casey, who has since been busted for fraud, defrauding Ontario Place, that was a famous case in Ontario a few years ago. Len Casey was the head of the CBC Variety Department when I was there.
I'm beginning to like you. The guy's got a memory. You know.
When I was, well, he was a significant character in my life because I had been at the CBC for 3 years. I was 22 years old, and Len Casey was coming in and saying, the CBC is not a training ground for Canadian entertainment. Go prove yourself somewhere else before we put these new show ideas of yours on the air. Now, I was making a living, and a comfortable one, and had no responsibilities at that age. I did not leave and go to the United States out of greed. I went out of Len Casey's CBC bureaucratic frustration, knowing that I would be doing the same things over and over again, and no new programs would be done unless I proved myself somewhere else, which usually means the United States. And then after you do, there's very little reason to come back. And it took the CBC 5 or 6 years, and this will sound immodest, but it took them that long to get me back, and I'm not alone. There is a wave of Canadians
That was when you
down
came
there.
back and did the Anne Murray stuff and Rennie Simard show, and what was the other one you did?
Bobby Vinton I did for CTV. Now, I have, at the same time, a real love-hate relationship with the CBC. The CBC is the best training ground in the world, and with the exception of Len Casey's own regime, has been fabulous to me.
Tell me, did you like Casey?
Big fan, big fan. But for instance, Jack McAndrew, who was head of CBC Variety recently and has just left, I think has made great strides in the CBC Variety programming department, and I think that it is a forward-looking organization now. But there were several of us who were driven to the United States out of frustration, not for dollars, but for something new to do.
When you were driven to the United States for something new to do, how did you break in? Because, you know, I've often wondered why I've never been discovered as a character. If Larry Mann can be an actor, I'm a better actor than Larry Mann ever was.
Well,
Besides, I'm fatter.
Well, in my own case, and maybe this will serve as some sort of instruction manual to you, Jack. I met a gorgeous blonde and fell in love and moved down to Los Angeles with her and a secretary friend of hers.
Why didn't you marry an American? That would have been easier for your work permit.
Well, she was.
Oh,
I met her. Yes.
Marriage
Gloria.
of convenience.
Yeah. Well, it was a marriage of pleasure, and the convenience was part of the pleasure. I
To
suppose.
be a Yank.
No, yeah, she was American. I did meet her in Toronto, though. She was performing at the Royal
Don't
York
have
Hotel.
to make excuses to me, Alan.
I know. I have to make them to her. I
No,
guess
do
I
you
don't
have to blush?
explain.
Right, carry on.
So we went to
How
Los
old are you,
Angeles
by the way?
together. I'm 33.
Uh-huh.
She was living in New York, and I was living in Toronto. We moved to Los Angeles together, and a secretary friend of hers was working on a new show that was just starting up. Heard that Gloria's boyfriend was in town, and he was a would-be comedy writer from Canada, which seemed somehow to be mutually exclusive terms to this secretary, but she did agree to get me an interview with the producers, and I did, and I won an Emmy for my first job.
What was that?
It was called The Loman and Barclay Show. It was on NBC, and it was a comedy program. And it did very nicely. And I thought Emmys would be easy to come by, and I'd have to get a bigger mantelpiece, and I didn't get another one for several years after.
Yeah, but there was a whole flock of young Canadians, kid reporters from the Vancouver Sun and kids out of CBC Toronto, who used to fill all the credits on the Rowan and Martin show
That's
and many
exactly
of the other
right.
shows.
Exactly right. It was the boom time
Name half a dozen. I can't.
of the people or the
Young
show.
Canadians who became comedy writers.
Alan Bly and Ferrier and Tadman and Earl Pomerantz and Lorne Michaels, who produces Saturday Night Live, Chris Beard. We were all the CBC at that same time.
I think Saturday Night Live was really a development of your Fernwood theme.
No, it was independently developed and brilliantly so by a Canadian, Lorne Michaels, and his wife, daughter of Frank Schuster.
Now
who
that's
writes
so
on the
sick,
show.
I like it.
Yes, well, Saturday Night Live was wonderful, especially those first couple of years, and it's difficult to sustain anything much beyond that.
Are you
I
going to
think,
do
but it
some
should.
Saturday Night Live satirical, nasty stuff, or are you going to stick to a nice, happy, wholesome format?
You mean on my program?
Yeah, on the Alan
We'll be
Thicke
basically
show.
happy and wholesome, but we'll try to surprise from time to time. We are restricted by time and budget and time of day and audience demographics in what an afternoon talk show can and should be, I believe. I would be doing a different program slightly, maybe more adapted to my own personal likes and dislikes if I were on at 11:30 at night. I think that you have to be conscious of who the audience is, who's available to you at that time of day, and what they like. And I can relate to that easily and well because I've produced those kind of programs in the past. And
Fella's quite bright, isn't he? Alan, best of luck.
well, thank you, Jack.
What
Pleasure.
time of day is it on?
I think it's on at 3:30, 3 o'clock, or 3:30. You will have. It's one of those consult your local listings. They don't tell me because then I'd be watching it instead of being in the studio taping.
My
It is
thanks to
definitely
Alan
afternoon.
Thicke.
Thank you.
Sounds very bright, even though he's just got ordinary teeth. Webster after the break.